So, folks, we gotta talk about Joe Kent. Now, for those of you who don't know who Joe Kent is, he was essentially, well, he's been in politics for a hot minute. And he worked as like the head of Donald Trump's like counterintelligence, a counterterrorism unit, and literally the head of the National Counterterrorism Center. And he resigned earlier today. And something to know about Joe Kent is that he is a massive conspiracy theorist and also an anti Semite. And so, like, this is definitely a case of, let them fight. It's just like two objectively terrible forces colliding here. President Trump, after much reflection, I've decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. It's clear we started the war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values and the foreign policies you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States, and that should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic that Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray that you will reflect on what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation, Joseph Kent. Yeah, just as an FYI, I want to remind you all, Joe Kent is a lunatic, okay? And don't allow this to be like, wow, look at Joe Kent being so reasonable. Because he's not a reasonable person or a reasonable man. Mr. Kent is not an ordinary war critic. He has long had a penchant for conspiracy theories, suggesting without evidence that FBI agents could have been responsible for orchestrating the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. He has dismissed allegations that Russia manipulated the 2016 election, saying such accusations were part of the Russia hoax. Mr. Kent also accused of pressuring analysts to change their findings on a Venezuelan prison gang to match the Trump administration's views. The curious case of election-denying white supremacist freak show Joe Kent. Some people are inclined to be sympathetic to the ideas contained in Kent's claim that it's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. All right, let's just take a look. Kent's comments, predictably, revealingly, are not so much to blame Israel as to exonerate Trump. That's precisely how anti-Semitism works. It's not Trump's fault. He was taken in by pressure from the Israelis. The U.S. has its own vast intelligence resources. It has its own regional exports. Israel couldn't pressure or convince Trump that Iran posed some imminent threat to the U.S. Indeed, no one in the Trump White House thought anything like that. The US and Israel went to war not because Iran was strong or about anything to do with the US or really anyone else, but because they are currently so weak. Dude's a fucking freak, you know? He's been friends to numerous anti-Semites long before today's news broke. Which is true. This is an attorney and advisor who worked in politics for a while, named Eric Robinson. My favorite personal Joe Kent moment was right after the 2020 election, where I had to insist, plead, beg him to understand that the Supreme Court wasn't going to hold a jury trial to determine if the Italians had used secret satellites to steal the election. When we talk about Joe Kent, that's the kind of shit he talked about on the regular. Okay? Like, he's genuinely a freak. The kind of freak who thinks Italians used advanced satellites to steal an election. Like, remember right after the 2020 election, and people were saying, conservatives were saying in particular, oh, well, you know, the ghost of Hugo Chavez possessed, like, the voting machines. Dude went a step further than that and was just like, ah, yes, the Italians are working against us. He was just off on an island of his own, okay? But, you know, let's hear what Donald Trump had to say after the news broke to him about Joe Kent.
Mr. President, your director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there loaded with cash?
Again, I do want to reiterate, we're going to be talking about this at some more length later on tonight. Donald Trump's brain is going because you didn't know him that well. You just thought he was a nice guy, but he was weak on security. My brother in Christ, you appointed him. You appointed Joe Kent. You're the guy who said this is the person who should be in charge of counterterrorism in the United States. You put him in that position. Did you put him in that position because you were just a really nice guy, just a swell president? Understand that in this conception of Trump's world, he's a huge moron. He's a huge moron. All right? Like, that's the explanation he's giving. But, anyway, Joe Kent has a long history of being supported by Donald Trump. Here is his 2024 endorsement of Joe Kent.
In later years, that you're going to say, I'm very proud of my vote. You can be very proud of Joe Kent. This is a true American hero, and you'll be so proud that he represents you. So get out there and vote for Joe and Donald. Thank you all. In later years.
Like, I didn't know him very well, but I did do a town hall for him. I did endorse him into Congress, and I did appoint him to a position of prominence to fight terrorism. I just want you to know, I know that in the grand scheme of things, this particular interaction here is small, but I think it says an awful lot about how Donald Trump is just constantly trying to dodge accountability for the things he's done. And Joe Kent, even as he's leaving, because Donald Trump unilaterally led us into a war with Iran, and Joe Kent is leaving the administration over it. Even then, Joe Kent is playing defense for Donald Trump and Donald Trump's ego. No, sir. It couldn't possibly be because Donald Trump made a poor decision, made a stupid, idiotic, moronic decision. No, it must be because the dastardly Israelis tricked him. And it's like, you know, maybe he shouldn't be. If you think that he's capable of being tricked, maybe he shouldn't be the president anymore. Maybe someone who can just be bamboozled into unilaterally taking us into a war that no one asked for shouldn't be president because they are too simple-minded to be trusted with the kind of power that they have. You know, that's like the thing, though. But you can say and set up scenarios where the obvious conclusion is that Donald Trump is the biggest moron ever to lead this country. As long as you try your best to protect his ego in the immediate sense by saying, no, it's not your fault. You didn't do this. It's so frustrating to watch day after day after day of this. But here we are. This is America. And this is who we are. Don't look away. Instead, get angry and do something about it. Okay, folks? We need people to organize. We need you to go to your local Democratic meetings. We need you to go to your local DSA meetings. We need you to get organized with other like-minded people on the local level so we can build a political power base that will push out centrist Democrats who are trying to, play cute about whether or not they support Donald Trump going into Iran, who are trying to play cute about whether or not the United States should be supporting a genocide. We don't have time for those kinds of Democrats anymore. We don't have time for these Democrats that are doing the bidding of billionaires. We don't have time for that anymore. We need to get organized. So go join your local Dems, go join your local DSA. And make your local Dems more progressive, make your local DSA more effective. If you need help, join our Discord. Reach out to Gamergy for help with your DSA. Reach out to Dragonfly for help with your local Dems. And if you can't join the Discord for whatever reason, join riverboat.gg and find them in this chat over here because they are active in there quite often. So go do those things. And also, folks, if you got anything out of this, hit the like button. Subscribe, leave a comment. Comments longer than 8 words help the algorithm for whatever reason. And also, check out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. Everyone finds it comfortable and flattering and sexy. And you should check it out too. Link down in the description. And I'm actually wearing it right now. I think it looks great. So anyway, go check that out. ImogeneOlivia.com. New colors, styles, and sizes coming in the near future. With that, let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.